Hey everyone, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. Today we're going to be taking an in-depth look into the 1989 Nissan 240SX. If you're not already a subscriber, be sure to hit that button because I'm building this car into an entire new series. It's my new resto mod project, where I'm focusing on bringing it back to its former glory, but I do have some surprises up my sleeve that I don't want to divulge quite yet, but I think you guys are going to really like how this car comes out. I thought it was especially important to film this review because it's so hard to find 240s that are still in good shape, let alone ones that are completely unmodified. You know, I wanted to talk about why the 240 was so special when it came out in 1989. Of course, I'll talk about performance, handling, interior quality, comfort, and all of that good stuff, but this is a very popular car with a lot of people in drifting, racing and all of that because it's cheap, it's rear-wheel drive, and it's an excellent platform to start out with. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and start her up and let her run. The first generation 240SX, commonly referred to as the S13, was an all-new model for 1989. It served as a replacement for the S12 200SX and was produced through 1994 before the S14 or second generation was introduced for 1995. When I was looking for a new project car, I considered many things, but the reason I ended up choosing a 240 wasn't to try to do something different. I'm pretty late to the game on that one, but it was the nostalgic rush that came over me when I first saw this car in person. It was owned by the same family since it was new, and being 27 years old, it's technically a classic. It's also incredibly fun to drive and brought up so many memories of drifting and racing these things in old Need for Speed games. The 240 was born at the beginning of an incredible era of affordable and high-performance sports cars, competing alongside offerings such as the Honda Prelude, Mitsubishi Eclipse, and Ford Probe. This is a car that was known by many names, depending on which region of the world you were from. In Japan, for example, you had the Silvia, which was only offered as a coupe, and the 180SX, which was only offered as a fastback. While the vast majority of underpinnings are identical between the cars, the most important differences were related to powertrains, as the 240 was never bestowed with the option of a turbocharged engine like its international counterparts. At launch, the 240 was available in two body styles, the $12,999 XE Coupe and the $13,199 SE Fastback. A convertible was added to the lineup in 1992. The 240 styling was primarily influenced by the 180SX, as the Silvia featured a different front fascia with fixed headlamps instead of the pop-up ones. In fact, a lot of folks actually swap out the 240's front clip for one from a Silvia. This is especially cool when done to a fastback. Since they were never offered from the factory in that configuration, it makes for a pretty unique creation. For me, the fastback was always the best looking 240. Since the A and B pillars are blacked out, it almost looks like the glass wraps around the passenger compartment without interruption. The top portion of the roof is painted to match the body for added contrast. The sharp nose and short rear also give us some resemblance to a late 80s 300ZX. In 1989, if you opted for the $799 Sport package, you also received a front chin spoiler, a rear deck lid spoiler, and alloy wheels. The rear wiper washer system was optional as well. Over the years, the most significant changes to the S13 came in 1991 with the introduction of a smoother, more modern front fascia, new wheel designs, and an updated engine. With the Sport package and a handful of other options, my car would have come with an MSRP of around $15,508, including a $265 destination fee. In 1989, all 240s came with 15 by 6 inch steel wheels and 195/60 tires. These teardrop-styled alloy wheels were only available with the optional Sport package. Despite being the same size as the standard equipment, the alloys were wrapped in wider 205/60 tires for increased handling. Car and Driver claimed the 240, equipped identical to mine, was capable of pulling 0.83 g of lateral acceleration. Power-assisted disc brakes can be found at each corner. The 10.1 by 0.8 inch front discs are internally ventilated, while the 10.1 by 0.4 inch rear discs are solid. Each are clamped down by single piston calipers. Together, this allows the 240 to stop from 60 miles an hour in about 148 feet. While not offered at launch, ABS was eventually included with the Sport package. The steering is a power-assisted rack and pinion setup. It takes 3.1 turns to lock and offers fast reacting behavior that's both talkative and easy to direct. It also has an exceptionally tight turning circle of just 30.8 feet. Along with independent McPherson struts in front, the 240 introduced an all-new multi-link rear suspension design, which allowed Nissan to strike a great balance between handling and ride comfort. With anti-squat and anti-lift properties, the multi-link suspension, which essentially consisted of 4 control arms on each side, helped maintain a level ride without the need for stiffer springs, again benefiting long-term comfort. Anti-roll bars can be found in the front and the rear. With the Sport package, the rear anti-roll bar is slightly thicker to tighten things up. There's a rubber isolated subframe too. Having never driven a 240 before this one, I must say this thing is an absolute blast. It handles wonderfully thanks to a well-balanced chassis. The ride is stiff, but it's certainly not punishing. Also, there's no traction control or stability control. You are the true guiding force. At about 2,800 pounds, the 240 is rather lightweight. 54% of that weight rides over the front. Between 1989 and 1990, the 240 was equipped with Nissan's KA24E 2.4-liter four-cylinder. Constructed using an iron block and an aluminum head, it features 3 valves per cylinder, port fuel injection, and a chain-driven single overhead camshaft. The compression ratio is 8.6 to 1, while engine speed peaks around 6,400 RPM. With 140 horsepower at 5,600 RPM and 152 pound-feet of torque at 4,400 RPM, the 240 can hit 60 miles an hour in 8.6 seconds and accelerate to a top speed of 107 miles per hour. As I mentioned earlier, the 240 is rear-wheel drive. You had the choice between 2 transmissions, either a 5-speed manual or an electronically controlled 4-speed automatic. The 5-speed is smooth and easy to operate. The throws are long, accompanied by a light clutch. 240s aren't fast cars to begin with. With the manual, you're really able to use the car to its fullest potential. Push it hard enough and it'll still slide around. In 1991, an updated version of the KA was introduced that included dual overhead cams and 4 valves per cylinder. Along with some other tweaks, this raised output to 155 horsepower and 160 pound-feet of torque. I once read a quote that said I'd rather drive a slow car fast than a fast car slow. This perfectly describes how I feel behind the wheel of this thing. Obviously, there are faster cars out there and tons of aftermarket support for 240s, but I've thoroughly enjoyed driving it just the way it is. The KA seems like a pretty durable motor. This one has never been rebuilt. There's some things that it needs, but it drives fantastic for having 154,000 miles on it. It revs out nicely, has a great sound to it, and at least gives you the sensation of going fast. The only thing I've had to do so far is a resonator delete, which was warranted to fix a pesky rattling sound. EPA fuel economy estimates range between 20 miles per gallon in the city and 26 miles per gallon on the highway. Expected average is around 23 miles per gallon. The 240 runs on regular unleaded fuel with a total capacity of 15.9 gallons. One thing that I've always appreciated about sports cars from this era is their inherent simplicity. It's easy to get consumed by the sheer amount of technology available in cars nowadays, but with the 240 you didn't have any of that. Sure, Nissan offered a number of ways that you can outfit the interior, but by today's standards it's still very basic. With all of the new cars I test out, it's nice to just hop in and go. Feeling at one with the car without any driver assist aids is a freeing feeling that's relaxing in a way but also incredibly fun. What may surprise you though is how well made it actually was. Don't get me wrong, this is not a luxury car by any means, but the 240 was a great value regardless of what options you tacked on. The doors and dashboard are padded while cloth trim, the same that wraps the seats, can be found across the doors and even the glove box door. What you see here is a 240 that features every option available for the Fastback in '89, including all of the power accessories, cruise control, and a rear wiper and washer system. Air conditioning was a $795 option, while the pop-up sunroof was a $450 option. Everything is super easy to operate. The hazards, rear defroster, and wiper systems are located to the right side of the steering column, while the HVAC system is controlled by a bank of toggles and 2 slide levers. One thing that I find particularly cool are the 2 adjustable air vents on either side of the steering column for added comfort. A 4-speaker audio system came standard across the board along with an AM/FM radio. However, an upgraded cassette deck radio was optional, as was a CD player. There's large door storage pockets, an ashtray across the center console, and a good amount of space towards the rear of the console. The glove box is generous. Like I said, the door is wrapped in cloth material, it's lockable and illuminated so you can see easier at night. With the sport package, Nissan's seamless style monoform seats were included, as was a leather-wrapped steering wheel and shift knob. The seats are manually adjustable, as is the steering wheel, and the seats offer good comfort all the way around with excellent lateral support, lower back support, and a fixed headrest. The seat belts are partial powered, with the upper portion automatically coming back as you close the door, and then you have a manual lap belt that you would strap across. Even though the 240 can sit up to 4 people, it's more of a 2+2 configuration, as the back seat is rather tight, limited in both headroom and legroom. If you can sit back there, I imagine it's a pretty decent place to be because there's a lot of padding, and I love the dished out seat design, keeping you nice and low in the chassis. You can also fold down the back seat for extra practicality, and there's some interior illumination. So now let's go ahead and see how she sounds, both sitting still and on the road. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and shut her down. Next, we'll head towards the back and check out trunk space. The Fastback was the clear practicality winner over the Coupe when it came to cargo space. While the Coupe had a traditional trunk with about 8.6 cubic feet, by having the hatch and a lot more of an open environment, the Fastback has 14.2 cubic feet, and that's not including folding down the back seat. The Coupe also had a folding back seat, but again, you just have so much more open space here that you can store larger items. It's also illuminated, and underneath the trunk floor, you have a spare tire. Well everyone, I hope you enjoyed the in-depth look at my 1989 Nissan 240SX. Be sure to stay tuned next time, leave a like, and subscribe today. There's always a lot more where that came from. Take care everyone.